live.
All right, Doug Mouton, Andrew Docombe, what turned out to be a landmark, historic day for New Orleans. It's happened now twice, where when the Pelicans franchise was, and of course it was the Hornets the first time, but when the New Orleans NBA franchise was at its lowest, with Chris Paul gone and the franchise not having a lot of hope, they get the number one pick to have Anthony Davis. Now, Anthony Davis says he wants to go. The franchise is about as low as it can get. They revamp the organization, hire David Griffin, and bang, now you get the number one pick again. How about that?
He obviously brought some good karma with him, I guess. Look, you get another shot at being able to have a number one pick. And look, I think you made a good point by saying it's not necessarily a generational player in Zion Williamson because they come around every 5 years. But I will say this is a prospect who is unique. And Anthony Davis and LeBron James are the only two comparable guys as far as the way that they're able to take over games. And this just gives you a foundation right now to be able to really change the face of this franchise and a young piece that players are going to want to play with and build around.
Yeah, it's difficult to understand. Getting the number one pick is one thing, but there have been a lot of number one picks in NBA drafts that have been good players, some that have been okay players. It seems like once every 7 or 8 years, it's not quite a generation. I wouldn't call that but once Anthony Davis being the last one, and maybe LeBron James the one before that, you don't get them very often. And if you're gonna hit number one, those are the ones you want to hit. The Pelicans hit with Anthony Davis, and they hit this year with number one. So what you do now is, first of all, put Anthony Davis aside. You're starting with Zion Williamson and a really good off guard in Drew Holiday. Yeah. That's where you're starting. Yeah. And then Anthony Davis becomes the wild card piece.
And I wonder if this is enough to be able to convince him to think about coming back. Because look, that was my initial reaction, was like, when you land the number one pick, this guy's going to be someone you're going to want to play with for a long time. And it would at least turn some heads. And some of these franchises that are at their peak right now could be fizzling out here in a couple of years. So you want to find the next spot to be able to build. But the thing that pops out to me, too, whenever I look at the draft is, look, you have potential trade partners that are in this top four right here. What the Grizzlies decide to do at number 2 is interesting to me because you do have Mike Conley, who's their point guard, but maybe they want to pick somebody like John
Morant.
Mike
Conley's at the end. It would seem John Morant is a natural fit there. But yeah, you're going to bring up the Knicks at number 3, which was a franchise that was always interested in Anthony Davis. I would put the odds of Anthony Davis staying, I don't think it's at 0. I'd put it at about 10%. I don't think I'd put it any higher than that. I think there's a 90% chance Anthony Davis is gone. All of a sudden, the Knicks, with R.J. Barrett, where you're starting with Zion and Drew Holiday, now R.J. Barrett would become, and he of course is the 6'7" Canadian wing player, also from Duke. He becomes a really interesting piece because he's not like Zion and he's not like Drew Holiday. If you could somehow get R.J. Barrett and then other pieces from the Knicks, I don't think just R.J. Barrett would be enough to get Anthony Davis, but I think all of a sudden you've got young pieces that you look at what Portland has done with Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum, letting them grow up together. Look how this Golden State run began with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and sort of growing up together. If you could get 2 of those top 3 and sort of let them start growing up together, that's how you form the nucleus of a championship team.
So just assuming Anthony Davis wants to leave and say that New York is one of those trade partners that would be interested, you look at Kevin Knox is on that team. That's someone that the Pelicans have been rumored to be looking into and scouting. Dennis Smith Jr. is a guy who used to play for the Mavericks. It's a guard that could fit within this system. Even Mitchell Robinson from Chalmette is a guy who you would certainly be interested in. So those are all pieces that I think if you were to trade them, Anthony Davis, and you could select R.J. Barrett at number 3, I think you could get another piece out of that.
Oh, yeah,
no question.
Is
the question, but there's certainly some pieces that you could even continue to build a bench, if not even add to your starting rotation, depending on what happens with some of the Pelicans' other role players and potential free agents like Elfrid Payton this offseason.
And if this was reversed, and we talked about this before the draft, what if the Pelicans would wind up at 3 or 4, and then the Knicks wind up 1? Really, Zion Williamson for Anthony Davis might have been a one-on-one trade, and maybe Anthony Davis isn't even enough to get a young Zion Williamson. Like, I don't even know how that would actually play out. You wouldn't have gotten Zion and a bunch of other pieces for Anthony Davis. Now you start with Zion.
Control it.
So now, yes, now you can get the number 3. Or, look, the Lakers are at 4, and I know there's a big drop-off after 1, 2, or 3. But you've got a chance for this franchise, if you do it right, to start young. And honestly, if the Pelicans can get a good enough trade value for Anthony Davis, I love the idea of a second top 3 pick and let them look. Zion Williamson is not going to be great in year 1. Anthony Davis wasn't great in year 1. Anthony Davis didn't become Anthony Davis until maybe his 3rd year in the NBA. Zion's going to need. Now, granted, Anthony Davis was a lot skinnier. Zion Williamson looks more physically ready.
He might need to lose a little bit.
He might, yeah. He looks a little more physically ready than Anthony Davis, but he's not going to be at his highest level at his age now. He's going to need a couple of years to learn the NBA game. And I love the idea of young guys growing up together. You said it. The current generation of great NBA teams, starting with Golden State, are at least at the top or on the back end of their runs. Golden State's not the Golden State of 3 years ago.
No.
Golden State, this might be their last run. They might have 1 more run or 2 more runs. This version of the Golden State team is not still going to be around in 4 years when this version of a Pelicans team might be ready to compete.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, just for the Golden State Warriors, for example, I mean, Klay Thompson is a guy who is going to be a free agent.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant's going to be a free agent. A lot of people think he's going to go to New York. Draymond Green's been someone who's been rumored for a long time to be unhappy there with the system. So yeah, look, this is kind of an opportunity for the Pelicans to be able to build something and really kind of plant their flag in the Western Conference and start building momentum as a team that could really have a say in the future.
It is just an exciting day. I mean, it is just an exciting. You're starting with number 1 and then other pieces.
Yeah.
And the way to build a small market franchise, and like it or not, New Orleans is a small market franchise, is to build through the draft. Milwaukee is where they are because Giannis turned out to be a spectacular pick, and then Chris Middleton, and they got other pieces around him. Golden State is where they are because it started with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. You start in the draft. Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum is what kicked off where Portland is. They're one of the final 4 teams. This is a chance for New Orleans to make that play right now, to start it right now. I love the idea. If Anthony Davis wants to go, fine. Just get a good package for him. You talked about the Knicks maybe getting Kevin Durant in free agency and trading for Anthony Davis. They're ready to play in New York right now. For them, there is great motivation to trade that 3 and a couple of pieces if they can get Anthony Davis and then maybe get Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
It may work out for everybody, but you're starting with the number 1 and the best trade piece that's been out there in the last few years.
Yeah. You have to be able to start with homegrown talent through the draft, especially in a place like New Orleans. And this is a situation, too, where it's not like where you have a trade and there's disgruntled players coming to New Orleans like an Eric Gordon a couple years ago. You know, I mean, I'm curious what Zion Williamson's thought process is going to somewhere like New Orleans, because I'm sure that was probably somewhere that he wasn't necessarily thinking, just based on the odds and percentages.
Right.
But yeah, even with the Golden State Warriors, I mean, you look at as much flack as they get, and I get it, and I think people are tired of seeing them win.
Sure.
Steph Curry was drafted. Klay Thompson was drafted. Draymond Green was drafted.
Yeah.
And then they added pieces
around
him.
That's the only way.
That's how you have to do it.
That's the only way it works. Really, anywhere. You talk about the Knicks, maybe one of the unique teams that could kickstart it in a different way. New Orleans is not New York. It's not going to happen like the Lakers where LeBron is just going to go there because he wants to. But it can be done. I mean, Portland, there's no reason Portland should be in the NBA Final Four any more than New Orleans. There's no reason San Antonio, although they have the best coach the NBA has seen, there's no reason they should be there from a market standpoint. It is possible for small market teams to win, and days like tonight are where hopefully it starts.
And the truth is that you go somewhere like a small market like New Orleans, you don't have as much pressure when it comes to the media. You're not under a microscope, and you're making a lot more money. That when you're going and playing on the West Coast, I think the biggest attraction, if I was an NBA player, is that I'm not having to pay a 35% tax rate, and whatever their inflation is when it comes to what you have to pay for the housing market. So I think small market teams, I think, you've seen grow over the last several years as far as being able to compete, and I think that's one of the key factors that makes it more intriguing and attractive if you have the right pieces there.
Yeah, it's a good start for the Pelicans. Now you wipe the slate clean.
Yeah.
You start with Zion and Drew Holiday, and then sort of see what else you can build around them. It's going to be a very interesting next month leading up to the NBA draft. That's June 20th. The Pelicans will definitely pick one. No reason to think there's any chance they would be trading that pick, but there is reason to be thinking they'll be trading for other picks. It's a chance to go young, build with talent, and you start with Zion Williamson, who's a heck of a player. If you haven't seen a lot of him, watch some clips. He's pretty good, and it's a great start for the team.
I can't agree more. I think it was an exciting night more than anything.
Wow.
And the fact is, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier, the fact is, like, you are holding the cards right here. And so you get to call the shots when it comes to bring your best offer to the table when it comes to Anthony Davis. You're not picking three and trying to get to one where somebody can lowball you.
Right.
You're in control right now. And
the Knicks at 3, the Lakers at 4 with some pieces. Look, the Lakers at 4 with Kyle Kuzma and other pieces. They're a player. Boston's still got a lot of nice pieces, even though I think they stayed at 14.
Yeah.
So Boston's not going to help you with a draft pick. But boy, you're going to have some real nice choices, and you're starting with Zion and Drew.
And something to consider too. Say you didn't even want R.J. Barrett at 3, and say you traded with the. I'm just hypothetical. Let's just throw another scenario out there. Say you wanted to trade with the Lakers at 4. I think you could literally go to the table and say, "Hey, whatever offer that you guys gave us, which was like your whole roster, we want the 4th pick, and then basically your whole roster will give you Anthony Davis, and you guys can have LeBron James and AD." But that's just. I think that's kind of the what you control right now.
It's some
based
great
on where
choices.
you are. So, and if you're David Griffin, you're just you're liking what you.
I posted some video on Twitter of Alvin Gentry literally flipping out.
Yeah,
he wasn't even making a sentence.
No, he was just
slapping David Griffin on the head and hugging him and being excited. It's that kind of day. The sports office flipped out when. First of all, when they got to the top 4, and then we're all saying, just don't be number 4.
Right.
Because there's such a delineation from the 1, 2, and the 3, and then everybody else. And then as soon as they were at 4, we flipped out again, and then 2 more times until it became number 1. All right, for Andrew Doak, I'm Doug Mouton. You've been watching Facebook Live. Great night for the New Orleans Pelicans.